The number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
Welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. I'm Patrick Cristiano, your host, the publisher of TheaterLife.com, a website for theater buffs in New York City and the Hamptons. We cover Broadway and off-Broadway theater. And I'm coming to you from the LTV studio in Wainscott, where I have a Sag Harbor resident, Laura Grenning, the gallery owner and art consultant who has come here with her dog who's wandering around the studio at the moment. Welcome,
She'll
Laura.
come back. Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you for
so
having
much
me.
For coming.
Thank you.
I'm sorry Zola has kind of disappeared on us.
She'll come back, I'm sure.
So you have just moved to a new space in Sag
Yes.
Harbor at, what is it, 26 Main Street?
26 Main
26
Street.
Main Street.
I'm right between Black Swan Antiques and Sarah Nightingale's gallery,
Wow.
directly across the street from Sen.
Well, congratulations. So we look forward to getting over there and seeing you. You got everything on the walls now?
Yeah, I mean, we moved everything over for December 1st soft opening. We'll do something, probably later on, a little bit more of a formal kind of grand opening now that we're settled in.
You haven't got a date yet, though.
No, we don't have a date for that yet.
But it'll be after the first of the year, anyway.
Definitely, yeah. We were actually thinking of doing an Andy Warhol kind of shagadelic party in February when it's quiet and nothing else is going on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So you've been here now for 20 years.
I've been in the East End since 1995. I opened the gallery in 1997 in Soho, but then I actually brought it out here within 6 months because I was living on Shelter Island, reverse commuting into Soho to have the gallery, and I moved it to Sag Harbor in 1997.
Wow. So it's exciting to know that you kind of can do something that quickly. Just, realize this is not working here and we need to...
Well, it wasn't working for me, and
Right.
I think a lot of businesses out here are like mine, where we organized our business around our passion, but also around my family life. I wanted to raise my daughter on the East End. I didn't want to raise her in New York, and I've done that. She's a senior at Pearson High School right now.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah.
How cool. But what I found was interesting when we spoke, you bring such an interesting perspective and history to what you do. So enlighten our audience. Tell us.
So I worked for 10 years on Wall Street. My first job was at Goldman Sachs in New York, and I didn't even know what that was coming out of a liberal arts school in Ohio.
But your degree is in what?
Economics.
Your degree was in economics
Yeah,
too?
and I've always been interested in the valuation and how things are valued. So working in equity research, I learned how to value stocks. Individual stocks within the context of an industry.
Mm-hmm.
That was my job. Mm-hmm. As an assistant to the semiconductor analyst, I also worked for the hospital supply and healthcare analyst, beverage and tobacco, and specialty retail. So I worked underneath all these experts in those industries, and it was great fun. It might not sound exciting for other people, but to me it was really fun to go out into I could go visit these companies
Mm-hmm.
and learn about the industries. And then I quit my job and I moved to Hong Kong in 1989, 1990. And there
Why did you do that? What was the motivation to quit your job and move to
Do you
Hong
want
Kong?
to know something? I looked at the people 5 and 10 years ahead of me working in my field, especially the women, and I didn't like what they were doing. They were working like 6 days a week.
I get it.
And
I did something very similar about going into real estate because
Yeah.
I looked 10 years ahead and saw...
as an actor.
so
And
if
you're
you're
like,
not successful, are you going to be happy?
yeah, you're gonna still be working at Starbucks. And these women were having great careers on the outside, but their whole lives weren't very interesting at all to me. They had nannies raising their
So
children.
now you're in Hong Kong. What did you do in Hong Kong?
I was a stock analyst, and I actually
oh.
became an expert on financial stocks all around Southeast Asia. So I had analysts working underneath me in Hong Kong. I was in Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia.
Wow.
So I would go in and I would interview the central banks, the head of the central bank there. And then I would also interview the people who were running the major banks in those countries. And there were analysts on the ground in those countries that then we would work together on looking at the big trends.
So what's the transition to art? How do we?
Well, I always painted and drew.
Oh,
And in
so-
fact, I was a scholarship kid going to college at Denison
For art?
University. It was a merit-based scholarship, but I wanted to study art. And I didn't like what they were teaching. They weren't really teaching anything. And to put my scholarship money towards art classes where I wasn't learning anything seemed silly. It was very bad value. And so I continued studying economics, and I really enjoyed that.
Before you sold stocks and looked at the value of things, did you ever think about that?
I always thought about it.
You always
it's just
did. So it's part of your
it's like
DNA.
part of my DNA. And speaking of DNA, one of the parts of my jobs, besides going around Southeast Asia looking at the companies, was to visit clients. I had clients in Japan, in Europe, in the UK, and in America. Every time I went to Scotland, the clients there thought just like me. It was the most bizarre thing. They would ask the question that was literally the next paragraph on the next page of my reports. And after my third or fourth trip to Scotland, I was visiting my grandpa in Florida, who I was most like, who was 100% Scottish. And that's when I realized it's genetic. These people think like me because I'm Scottish.
So have you had your DNA done?
Yeah, I did my DNA.
Is it
Turns out I'm 10% Ashkenazi Jew. Who knew?
How much Scot?
I'm like 40% Irish and like 30% Scottish.
Okay.
It's there. And there's also, my dad was Norwegian, so we've got a lot of Nordic genes. And I'm a little bit of French and English. It's all in there. But yeah, I think that this idea of valuation, and now so I always painted and drew all along, but I knew it wasn't good value, and I was thinking 10 years ahead, I'm gonna be a struggling artist, not for me, I'll try Wall Street. So I took I'm a kind of a rare bird. At 30, I left Wall Street, and I started painting. And I met a painter the first week I was back who was painting on the beach in Shelter Island, and his name is Nelson White. And he taught me everything there was to know about American art history, because his father and his grandfather were artists, and both of his father and grandfather were also art historians covering the Impressionist movement in America, in New England. And they actually knew Childe Hassam.
Oh, wow.
They painted with John Singer Sargent, and I mean, all of these American Impressionists were part of his family's culture. So he taught me everything, but I wanted to know more about how to draw and how to paint accurately. And that they referred me to a group in Florence, Italy. And I ended up studying at the Florence Academy of Art. And that's where I met a lot of the painters who my mom fell ill, so I had to go back home to help my mom. And
What year was this?
This is 1996.
So
1996,
how
7.
How do we finally get to the gallery?
Well, I took paintings home to continue the study. So I got back in 95. I learned all that I could about painting from Nelson White, and then went to the Florence Academy in 97, brought all these paintings home, thinking I was going to study from them, but I couldn't help myself. I'm a natural salesperson. Everyone I met, I was like, you got to see these paintings. And I realized I was going to start a gallery to show the work of these artists that were reviving the classical painting techniques in Italy. And that's what I've been doing.
And you made this documentary that you never finished on.
I never finished.
About
in
reviving-
2000, I made 2002, I started filming. I did actually 60 hours of filming in Italy and in New York.
On the revival
about
of-
the revival of classical skills.
Which is really
and the atelier
taken off.
movement. Totally taken
You
off
were
now.
ahead of your time.
I mean, you've seen it in the broader art market. You see a return to figuration and a return to representational.
Our time is, believe is going fast, and I want to get to the images, because you
Okay.
brought a lot of the images
Oh,
of
yeah,
work that
yeah.
you
Can
have
I
too.
look at
So
them?
can we start?
Okay, so one of the things that's happened in the last 10 years is, besides selling what I sell in the gallery, I do a lot of art consulting. So I have clients who need paintings that are either a little more modern or a little more not exactly what I do, and they trust my taste. And what I do is I
So you'll
take
go to
my
other galleries
I
too?
take what?
Will you go to other
Well, what I do
sources?
is I go to galleries, other galleries out here. When we go to art fairs, I'll bring my clients around and we'll buy things from other booths. But most importantly, I'm probably one of the foremost dealers of Claudio Bravo's, who is a classical realist who was very famous. He's Chilean. His works go for between 150,000 to 3 million now.
Wow.
Out of Marlborough Gallery in New York.
So what was
But if
that, what we had?
But what we had, this
image.
is an Andy Warhol print,
Oh, no
actually.
kidding.
That's come from a friend of mine who lives locally. The value of this print is about 40,000 pounds. There's one for sale online or with a dealer in London. 40,000 pounds. We're asking less than that. I think we're asking $40,000, and there's a little. Oh yeah, sorry. I'm so into valuation. Anyhow, a friend of mine asked me if I was willing to sell this. He bought it at a charity auction. His wife bought it at the charity auction in the late 90s. And we reframed it. It's in the gallery now. It's hard to find these.
What's the next image? Yeah.
So the next image?
How many in that series?
There were, I'm gonna think there's 240, and we
what's
have
this one?
the 12. This is Cedar Point Lighthouse. This is a painting that was done this summer by Ben Fensky. He's one of our best painters. He's about 40 now, 39 or 40 years old. Here comes Zola. Hi, Zola.
Hi, darling.
Hi,
She's come
Zola.
back.
Yeah, good girl. Here, you want some of my water? You can have some of my water. So Zola is always in the gallery with us. Good girl. So that was
Let's have the image back.
Bug Lighthouse.
One more time, the light there.
Yeah, that's Bug Lighthouse. Ben Fensky is a lot of classically trained painters. People immediately think of like a really tight still life. You can take it to a lot of places. He tends to be very impressionist.
Yeah, because
He's my most successful painter, probably the biggest seller. He paints with larger scale.
So how big is this?
That painting is like 30 by 40 inches.
What's the next image we have?
Oh, so Ben Fensky was invited to paint in Russia, and because he painted with a lot of the Russian Academy in Florence, he was studying there. This is a painting by Viktor Butko, who's part of the Russian-American Painting Alliance, which Ben Fensky and I helped put together. They've painted in Russia together.
Russian Painting Alliance?
Yeah,
What is
the
that?
Russian-American Painting Alliance. It's Ben Fensky and a group of my artists were invited to paint in Russia in 2014. We invited them to come back and paint in America in 2016. They did a month up in a couple weeks in Maine and a couple weeks down here. Is that the dog?
So let's get another image, yeah.
So Viktor Butko came down here. What's really cool is he fell in love with one of the women painters, and they ended up getting married. And he was painting at the East Hampton Airport, which is just around the corner from here. So this painting that we're looking at now is we just sold it over the weekend. Are we okay back there?
Cool.
Zola, come here, baby. Come here, Zola. Zola, come here, baby. Come here, Zola. Here, let me hold her. Come here, baby. There you go. Here we go. We have John Morpheus's hand trowel on the red background. That was what was up a minute ago.
Next image.
Next image, guys. Oh, so this is Stu Wengroth. So one of my clients, the other part of the art consulting thing is one of my clients asked me if I wanted some paintings if I wanted to resell some New York images that she had in her collection in Boston. This is a mint condition Stu Wengroth lithograph from 1945. And that's an image from Brooklyn looking over to Manhattan. Sorry, Zola. Sit.
We have Zola back in the studio. Zola got lost is where I went to find her.
This is a Cappy Admonson. This is a Cappy Admonson who was a painter this is another art consulting job, art consulting part. Cappy Admonson was a Sag Harbor painter who did a lot of local scenes, a lot of a lot of scenes of fishermen and whaling. And this is a painting, somebody on Shelter Island was moving. They had two beautiful Cappy Admonson paintings, and I bought them in.
Zola was not a good idea.
Zola's not a good idea. Can I just walk her out?
Yeah, why don't you do
Yeah,
that?
okay, sorry.
We'll just.
I'll be right back. Sorry. Sorry. She's not here.
So we're still running, I take it. Can we get another image up?
Okay.
Oh, yeah, this is.
So
this is. She does consulting, and this is. You're going to talk about.
So
this
yeah, in my art consulting, what I do is I go into your home and I help you integrate these classical works with some more contemporary works. This is I had about 5 or 6 of the houses collections that I've put together, photographed for magazine.
And you said this is
and
a
this
local.
is actually Michael Dwyer's house. Michael and Dwyer Derrick's house in East Hampton. And that is, again, a Ben Fensky of Sag Harbor Cove, of the Sag Harbor from the beach, right from Sag Harbor. And that's a big painting. That's like, 30, it's 5
So
feet.
now, when you do the consulting like that, you didn't just consult them on one piece, right?
No. I came in and saw their collection, and they bought a couple different things, and I helped them decide where to
So
hang
the
them.
consulting work that you did was deciding where to put the pieces and what other pieces you might need to.
Yeah, I
to-
come in and I look at your whole collection. Just like I don't sell paintings, I sell painters. Once you're my client, I help you with your whole collection. If you need a very small thing or if you need a very important thing, I help integrate it all. And I work with a lot of designers and decorators as well. One of the most important services that I do that really helps if you have that long view is that I allow people to take things on approval. So I might come to your home, if you have a new home and you like what I do, I'll come to your home and I'll hang 15 paintings. And we'll talk about it a week or two later after you live with them. And very often, once you've lived with them, you keep them because they just are really, the way that my painters paint is they're very interested in nature. So they're always observing, their paintings are made kind of with a lot of reverence for nature, whether it's a subject matter as a person, a still life, or a landscape. And I don't believe you can separate the way that they feel towards their subject from how you feel when you're living with these paintings. So there's a lot of peace and calmness. There's a lot of serenity in
That's
the paintings.
fascinating.
And this is very different from the broader art market and what went on in the 20th century. I believe this is the paintings.
Do you think this is a trend today?
I do. I believe this is the movement of the 21st century. Because I also think if you look at the holistic health, if you look at yoga, if you look at the fact that the green movement has become very mainstream with global warming, I think that their artwork represents this belief that I'm a very small part of a bigger thing and that I need to pay attention. And that's what these paintings are, what they create that feeling. That's what they're about. That they're created in that spirit.
Now, did you do the consulting right from the beginning when you had the gallery? Like when you started in Soho, were you consulting then?
No, that's
so
really
when did you begin consulting?
I'd say about 10 or 11 years ago, and it started when I had a really great client who loved what I did, but she had very important properties. She had a 20,000 square foot house, and she really needed something important for the walls. She couldn't just put up the paintings by unknown artists that were really well done. So I actually started to help direct her at auction. We would go to Christie's and Sotheby's. I helped direct her to some Claudio Bravos, I never knew I would be buying or helping people buy Claudio Bravo works. Every time I went to New York at Marlborough, I would ask to go in the back and look at them because I love them. So this business comes really from a passionate place.
I can tell.
Yeah.
It's pretty apparent. But I think you have passion for everything you do.
I think you might be right about that. Yes.
Yeah, but this has become your bigger mission.
Yeah, and in some ways it's mission accomplished because a lot of the artists have been these artists didn't even have a venue to sell their show and sell their work. You have to remember in the late 90s, this was really bad taste. Like beauty was a bad word. It still kind of is in critical art circles. There weren't many galleries that were willing to show work that was what we call aesthetic, you know. And now there's many more ateliers, there's many more galleries. There's been a lot of galleries that have picked up on what I'm doing. A lot of my best painters were picked up by 19th century dealers in New York in the early 2000s. But some of them, like Spanierman, went under or closed during the recession because they had a structure to their business that was not sustainable with the internet coming in. So I've tried to keep my overheads low, and we have a very big website, GrenningGallery.com, where you can see everything and see what it costs.
So GrenningGallery.com, Grenning.
Yeah, and you can also follow us on Instagram. We're on First Dibs, that's the other thing.
I don't know what First Dibs is.
Oh my God, First Dibs and Artsy are the two places online. First Dibs, I think, was started by a Sag Harbor person.
How long has it been around?
Oh, it's been around 10 or 15 years.
What is it?
It's kind of like a very fancy yard sale online.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But
it's like
just
really,
for art or just
it's
for
art
everything?
and architectural items and antiques. And decorators and designers are there. And
They
gotta get with it, baby. So First Dibs and Artsy, we actually do about 25-30% of our business there. Yeah, I have somebody who I hired just to get us going on that, and within a year it became 30% of our business.
So you have to upload all your images and everything.
It's really a full-time job.
I can imagine.
You know,
I can imagine.
it's a full-time job. But we do that, and I guess the art consulting, you know, and it's fun. It's fun to go to art fairs. Like I've been to the art fairs, and I just send images of what I like to my clients, who I think might like the works as well.
But it's also a lot of fun because you're dealing with people that love art, and now you have this mutual shared passion.
Well, we have a
about what
shared
you're doing.
passion, but I'm like, because of my Wall Street background, I can make sure my clients don't get ripped off.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are a lot of clients that are very successful at what they do, and they're very passionate about the art, but they're sitting ducks for unsavory dealers. Not that all of them are, but I protect them by doing the research to make sure they're getting the right, the piece
by taking the long view.
Yeah, yeah.
Which has been a theme of something you've said 3 or 4 times.
Yeah,
Long
I
view came
definitely,
out.
I'm like an old school banker almost. I'm much more interested in the relationship. Making sure that nobody ever has a piece of art from me on the wall that they're like, ugh, I should never have bought that. And I don't have clients like that because we let you live with it for a while before you buy it if that's what you need. And often I'll take things back in on consignment. I won't buy it from you unless it's something I want for me, but I'll take it back in on consignment to resell it. So I have a couple things like that. You know, a couple
Well,
things.
actually, we had some. We had one.
A couple of images?
But we have a couple.
So this is Ben Fenske again. This is a very beautiful, complicated technically to make. And he was inspired by the light effects of the light streaming through that roof over the lunch table. This is like the boating party by, I think, Renoir. This painting is going to be in a museum show in Florence, Italy next year.
Oh, wow.
I just got that news
Now, how big is that one?
2 days ago. Oh, this is big. This is like 4 by 5 feet.
Wow.
This is a major work. He's done one other painting like this that's sold. This one is available, but it is going to be in that museum show.
Do we have more images? Are there more images, or is that it? Because I thought we had some more of the consulting. Yeah.
So this is.
Scroll down.
This is.
Scroll down. We've got a lot of glitches today. But
this is owned by a very discreet client of mine, and this is a great picture to show because
I love that.
There's a Claudio Bravo on the left. That's an all-white still life with, you can see his incredible ability to paint all these different white surfaces convincingly. And on the right is another Ben Fenske, and that's actually a painting of my old gallery owner, gallery manager, right here in Sag Harbor on a place called Secret Beach, which is right looking into the Sag Harbor Cove.
And this is in their dining room, I take it.
This is their dining room, and it's a spectacular image.
Now, don't we have another one of the consulting? also? Yeah, they'll love this.
So
too.
this is that core client that I told you who got me into the art consulting business. And what's fabulous about this is there's an Elazabal, which we bought from another pretty famous collector's collection. We went and toured the home of the founder of the Art Renewal Center, Fred Ross.
Is that the first painting?
The first one on the left,
that-
that's out in the hallway. That's a Spanish painter that he had bought when he had a competition for contemporary realist paintings. Oh, and then we have two Ramiros over the piano there in their living room. This was in Setauket. That was an amazing collection. And we sold them Claudio Bravo as well.
But now, even though we have an image of only 3, you've done their whole house.
The whole
right?
house was mine. Yeah.
So how many? I'm just curious.
This was
roughly.
a 20,000 square foot house, and
You've talked about her in the beginning.
yeah, she was my first major art consulting client, and I think that in that collection, she had no less than 100 paintings for me.
Wow.
Yeah, she's an important client, and it became a great friend. So I don't want to,
No, of course not. Of course not. So, consulting has really become.
The art consulting part of the business is really fun. It's more lucrative. It helps to underwrite. Like if you were in publishing, they say you got to have your bestsellers in order to underwrite your poets.
Mm-hmm.
And the poetry is the one-by-one painting sales out of the gallery, and the bestsellers for me is the art consulting business.
It's cool. And congratulations and welcome to your new space in Sag Harbor.
Thank you.
26 Main Street.
26 Main Street, directly across the street from Sen. We just hired.
What are your hours?
I was just going to say we were normally like 11 to 5, 11 to 6.
Every day?
5 days a week this time of year.
We're
going to be open 7 days a week now because I hired another sales
okay.
girl. And I have two salespeople working for me now. So we'll be open from 10 in the morning till 6 at night, and then on the weekends we'll stay open late.
And you're always available for art consulting. Just stop into the
or
gallery
call
and-
myself. Call myself.
Just stop in and see her.
Yeah.
So we have about 20 seconds. Is there anything else you want to say?
I just want to thank you for having me on here.
my pleasure.
I just want to say that it's been a real pleasure to watch Sag Harbor grow up around me. And a lot of people kind of complain or wonder about the changes in Sag Harbor, but the gentrification has been, I think, rolling out smoothly. And these art galleries wouldn't be able to survive if people couldn't buy an $8,000 painting on their way to get a loaf of bread. So I like that about Sag Harbor.
Laura, you'll have to come back.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.